There are ways this can go. There are ways this can always go. And those who make what happens happen, and those who are what happens happens too, know where those ways that things can go are. There are circles that get narrowed around what is desired. There are coy demurs that lure and bind. The game of the hunt gone awry by an all too lacking sense of what is most becoming, spawned from lessons taught by predecessing rageful rightness, where everything is for the taking, guised as just and for the liking. That it is not a desired hand over the mouth may come as a surprise to the hunters of another prize, held paralyzed by the shock of when boys will be boys, watching sights get set. There are ways this can go. There are ways this can always go. Forced into the quiet echoes that bounce off long forgotten walls of all that came before. There are ways this can go, and have gone, and will go for a while yet. And in the evening, I still think of you. How much you scared me, how much I had to do. In the daytime, in the nighttime too. To feel my body as something separate from you.
I don't know, have you? I don't know, have you? Have you? I don't know, have you? I don't know. I don't know, have you?
Have you? Have you? Have you?
I don't know, have you? I don't know. I don't know, have you? Have you? Have you? Have you?
I want to know if you have. I want to know if I want to know if...
I want to know if you have.
If you have, you have, you have.
This thing was sprung on me. Sprung on me.
Sprung on me. This thing was...
On me, this thing was sprung.
Line up.
Our alma mater does describe how often we should hear the dearest mantra to our hearts, that is too many beers, too many beers, too many beers, helps us get what we want. I can't decide what's worse or best, to black out first or be the last, but all I know is the surest test. If it can't move, then that means yes. Bum 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 Bum,
Bum.
bum,
How many whatevers does it take to do a thing?
None, because it should already be done by the time it gets there.
Oink, oink, oink! Why did the whatever cross the thing?
Because the whatever was too busy talking to see the other thing.
Oink, oink, oink!
What's the difference between a whatever and a thing?
Ooh, the one is like this, and the other's like that, and like that is better than this.
Oink, oink, oink! What do you call a thing that's like a whatever?
Ooh, something that is not the whatever you wanted.
And yet.
There are still some whatevers that know how to work a thing.
And yet.
It's just that most whatevers don't want to work it.
Field notes.
Correlation is not causation. Yet,
As the fittest fall to the age of oldest.
as the weakest drift towards forgotten corners.
Far from the sinecure status of fiercest, far from the pedestaled emblem of purest.
Those at the top stay one and the same.
A renewable force of
Item,
Parted hairs,
item,
pleats,
item,
orthodontics,
item.
firm handshakes,
etc., etc.
world without end.
And while those at the top stay one and the same,
They remain elusive.
There appears to be incapacity or willingness to pin down precisely what, how, when they influence.
This confuses us.
for there are stable patterns to follow.
To piece and place,
To patch and form,
to quilt,
to hold the shape of the thing that is the case
a shape to point to,
before it dissolves.
into the what lies behind.
Into the what keeps renewing, the renewable force of
Dockers,
in an ever-present now that offers just enough to curb complaint from the rest that ride below.
a now that dazzles with what placates the very needs it creates.
A now that tethers doing to being and being to needing from a what that keeps moving.
And keeps one doing.
It's complicated for some,
Hard to follow.
Hard to swallow.
but they're all the same.